Appearances, please.
For the record, George Surgeon can be substituted for Mr. Landry. Belazaire, George Surgeon representing Mr. Tebbenhoff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good morning, Your Honor. Brian Lynch for the state.
All right. You picked up the discovery?
I have discovered it was Mr. Tebbenhoff gave me a whole packet, and I got it from Mr. Belazaire. So I have the discovery. And I recently got the copy of the grand jury minutes that he picked up.
You received the grand jury minutes
Yes,
from Mr. Belazaire?
yes,
You ordered it on an
Mr.
expedited basis.
expedited basis. And I gave Mr. Lynch a copy. I faxed it over last night.
That's correct, Your Honor. I've been through that.
How long will this case take to try? Oh, Bob,
About 3 to 4 weeks, Your Honor.
I don't think it's going to.
what is so terribly difficult about the case?
Your Honor, there's a number of victims here.
How many victims?
"21 victims that we have.
21 victims?
No, it's not that many, Judge, because most of them have been,
But nonetheless, if we're going to trial, whether they've been paid off or not, the crime is still committed.
Let me ask you something. You have multiple victims here. So you have consecutive charges if,
Correct.
in fact, the defendant is found guilty.
If he was found guilty, it would be close to about 20 years that he would be facing.
Well, just on count one, that's a max of 10 years.
That's correct, Your Honor. Under Yarborough, we could run 3 victims consecutive, and that would be...
Frankel, in his second count, is a third degree. And you have Franco Prandi, that's a separate victim. These occurred on different days.
That's correct, Your Honor.
One of the things that I'm going to do, counsel, is to give you a short period of time to get everything together, to go over the plea offer.
Judge, I went over that with Mr. Lynch, and everything's agreed to. The only problem is one amount.
What do you mean everything is
The
agreed
offer-
to?
There's only one amount that we have a problem with, that's Mr.
No. What do you mean by agreed to?
We agreed to work out a plea, the third degree to one of the counts, no problem with that. The only problem is the restitution, and I discussed that with Mr. Lynch. What we like to do, because Mr. Tebbenhoff was paying a 45% interest on that $160,000 loan. And what I like to do is go over the figures. I says, we'll work this out, we'll enter a plea, do everything. We'll agree to everything. The only thing with Mr. Shashu, I like to have some kind of proof to see what is really owed. So I like to have like an hour hearing, and we could have a proof to see what's owed and work it out.
Prosecutor?
And he doesn't want to do that, Judge.
Your Honor, the plea offer that we've communicated, which was a very generous plea offer, was probation for 5 years.
Probation on this?
That's correct, Your Honor.
I don't
His
think so.
generous.
I don't think so.
Judge, most of these people have been paid.
Okay.
And not only that, there was, if you look at the indictment, they're saying the car wasn't
We're
shipped.
setting a trial date.
I understand that, Judge.
Okay, I don't think there's any need for a plea in this matter. Not on a probationary sentence, not for something like this.
Your Honor, we felt that it was fair and equitable if restitution was to be entered into. We do have a promissory note or a loan agreement.
You know what would move me to a probationary sentence? How much is the total owed?
Total owed that we have now is $341,400.
$341,000.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Of which 160 is questionable, Judge.
Okay. Let's
There
just
may
stick
be some
with.
payments made.
Please. Let's just stick with the 341 for a minute. A probationary sentence of 5 years without some substantial payment in order to pay down whatever the total amount is. What are we looking at here? Making some payment, it's at the end having a balance. These victims will never be made whole.
I understand. The problem, Mr.
You get a benefit if you wind up paying the restitution. You don't get a probationary benefit if all the victims are left without a remedy.
Your Honor, we're providing them with the judgment, and he'll be making the payments, and that's what we can afford him. If he doesn't make the payments, then we have entering into that guilty plea and being resentenced on violation of probation. That's the benefit that we have to an avenue of recovery. And that's what the purpose behind this prosecution is
You should put a good faith payment by the sentencing date.
a monthly payment plan. That's what we're.
How much?
That's something that we'd have to look at as a.
Here, Judge, can I be? Mr.
I want to
Tebbenhoff.
know how much. That,
Tebbenhoff is trying to get a job, trying to work. Every time he works, Mr. Shashu calls and says the man's a crook, don't hire him, and they write to DMV. He's in the car business, you know, DMV's got all types of complaints. He's trying to get, we went to try to work with Ramsey Motors, Shashu complaints to the town, you got a crook working over there. It doesn't end. I like to work out the plea today, but
you're going to have to work out the restitution then.
the problem is, do you have any money? He has no money, Judge. That's the problem.
Your Honor,
Give me a few dollars to help him.
You know something? In child support, when spouses had multiple families, 1, 2, 3 families, what I would do is to compel the defendants to go out and get a full-time job. They made a choice in life. And by making a choice in life, if you want 3 families, you get 3 jobs. All I'm saying is you put yourself in this position, you're going to have to do your absolute best in order to make payments. I'll have you go out and get 2 jobs, doing something someplace, somewhere. If you don't do it, come back on a violation of probation. Keep something in mind. You have to have some motivation to make these payments. These are not going to run concurrent with each other. For purposes of a VOP, some of these have to be run consecutive. You might have a plea agreement as to, you know, the amount, but for purposes of a VOP, if he comes back
yes,
and
Your
there is an agreement, that there has to be, it has to be understood that there are some real penalties.
Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Well, how would you want to write that?
It's very easy.
Two,
There's
three,
at least, from what